Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this edition of News 99 Under 9. All your top stories in under 9 minutes or less. I'm Alan Agostino alongside my co hosts Michael McDonald and Jonathan Baskett. Date of recording this is March 16th, 2020, and we're going to jump right into the headlines. I'm going to save coronavirus towards the middle of the program here, but we're instead going to start off with the Democratic debate that took place last night in D.C. Mike, what can you tell us about the debate and what is going on in the Democratic Party right now?
Well, with all the news going on about the coronavirus, it's not it's very common to kind of this one to fly by you. But last night, the final two major candidates went at each other: Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, in our nation's capital, and not much to really be said. A lot of the questions were directed towards the coronavirus and just how, as if they were president, how would they handle the situation. But a couple of the big ones, well, at least two of the big talking points, at least I think, out of the debate was that Bernie Sanders says for his Medicare plan, how it's basically going to be raising the taxes of the middle class, which was a pretty big surprise because most of his target audience is middle class millennials and people of our age. So that's kind of a stab in the chest for most of his supporters. And another big one is that Joe Biden is going to pick a female running mate, whether that is Kamala Harris, Amy Klobuchar, Elizabeth Warren, any of the women that we saw on the debate stage throughout this entire process. They could be his potential running mate, which would be insane because right now it's looking like Joe Biden is most likely going to be the winner of the Democratic primary. From the debate last night, it's looking like Joe Biden, everyone's saying Joe Biden won it, but a lot of people that aren't professionals are saying Bernie won it, which I'm pretty mixed on it. I only caught a couple of minutes here and there, but it's really hard to tell. For all I know, I think this might be the last debate before we go into the final to pick the nominee. So we'll just have to see what the next primaries will happen and what their results will be.
Speaking of primaries, what is the status of many of those events? Are those being like postponed due to coronavirus, or is that like a state by state basis kind of deal?
From what I've seen, it's a state by state basis. The state of Louisiana has pushed back their primary indefinitely for the Democrats. But other than that, I haven't seen too many other states cancel or push back because really this is kind of a slower time. There's not that many in March. There's a couple here and there. End of April, beginning of May is when they start picking back up. So anything can happen.
Right, right. Thank you for that, Mike. We're going to now jump into the coronavirus update. We did publish our big spotlight on what's going on in the world of Millersville, but to just briefly summarize what's going on in PA as a whole, Governor Tom Wolf has ordered a shutdown on all non essential businesses to begin at midnight. Wolf says he expects this to be self enforced rather than forced closures. He's also urging residents to stay calm, stay safe, and stay home. Uh, in addition to that, speaking of the coronavirus, one of the biggest impacted industries that we haven't yet talked about on this show is the athletics industry. Organizations like the NBA, NCAA, NFL, just to name a few, have been hit hard due to the news of this. Basket, what can you tell me about how these various organizations are impacted by the coronavirus and what steps they're taking to make sure their athletes are safe?
So I'll just kind of reiterate on the steps that each of the leagues are taking. Obviously, with the NBA suspending their season until further notice, NHL is doing the same thing. Major League Baseball suspending, they're delaying their start for at least 2 weeks. It might be more. So they're doing what everybody else is telling everybody to do. It's just stay away. Just self-quarantine basically. So because you got to remember with all these with these clubs and teams is that everybody's always around each other. So the NBA is a good example of that. What we witnessed with the Rudy Gobert, Donovan Mitchell situation. So that's basically within the athletics world of how things are going to be taken.
Right, right. Do you suspect it'll be business as usual for the NFL coming up since their season doesn't start for, I believe, another couple months, if I remember correctly?
Yeah. So the NFL things are like right now it's indefinitely suspended. Well, technically speaking, it is, but the NFL draft and all that stuff is still going to be happening. It just won't be without. There's going to be no fans, obviously. So that is what's going on with that. But within NFL news, at least just to kind of pivot a little bit, the NFL recently just approved of a collective bargaining agreement, and just to figure out what's going to be going on. One of the tweets, according to ESPN's Adam Schefter, is that NFL players voted to approve the proposed CBA, giving the NFL 10 more years of labor, peace, and players an increased share of revenue, former players added benefits, and the leagues now going from 16 games to 17 games and expanded playoffs, which could help and hurt players, especially within these times. So I think that's something that needs to, be taken into consideration, especially what's going on with COVID-19.
Basket, last question. Should it be confirmed that a professional NFL player has tested positive for COVID, what do you think the NFL's responsibility? Do you think just complete maybe suspension or cancellation of the league for the year? What do you think is going to go on?
Well, I think they're gonna do what the NBA does, just suspend because they're just too far out. Like it's not like they're in the middle of their season. Like that's why I applaud what the NBA did by suspending, what the NHL did by suspending. That's why I didn't like the NCAA's decision by canceling. Because if you suspend, it's like, okay, well, there's a chance things can get back. If you cancel, then it's like, I understand you by making that decision, but I don't think that's, rational. So we'll have to figure out and see what happens.
And we will have to see what goes on in the future. And that is a good spot to end this episode. Thank you so much for listening. My name is Alan Agostino, and alongside my co-hosts Jonathan Basket and Michael McDonald, this has been News 99 Under 9. All your top stories in under 9 minutes. Have a good day and stay safe out there.